The PS2 was the last home console where any sort of game could be released to the mainstream. It was a transition period for gaming where before you could have games that took place in weird and wonderful worlds to games in general being more serious. Nowadays mainstream gaming is more in line with the mainstream film industry in terms of tone and audience. While games were becoming more mature, I use that term loosely, we still got games more in line with the SNES and Mega Drive days. Today I'll be looking at one of these games, iNinja. iNinja was developed by Argonaut Games, who also made Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for the PS1 and the Croc series. Their style of games is something you never see around anymore, so you shouldn't be surprised that they went out of business in 2004. So, iNinja, is it any good? Well, let's just take a look. In iNinja, you play as a ninja, who is called Ninja, who starts out by trying to rescue his sensei, who is called Sensei. Instead of rescuing Sensei, Ninja picks up a rage stone which causes him to behead him in a psychotic fit. Sensei turns into a ghost and informs Ninja that he must collect the other rage stones to stop the evil Emperor Odor and his Ranks army. That's it in terms of story, but the characters in this game all have little touches to them that makes everything entertaining. Ninja is a psycho, as well as being rude and sarcastic to everyone. He also really enjoys fighting, which can be heard with his dialogue when in combat. I didn't laugh at everything he said, but I liked that he had a clear personality rather than just being a generic hero. Sensei also has his own quirks, the main one being that he will frequently misquote proverbs so they no longer make sense. It's little things like this which makes these characters more memorable and adds charm, which in a game that is geared more towards a younger audience makes a big difference. iNinja is an action platformer. As Ninja, you of course have basic abilities such as being able to jump, and you can attack enemies with your sword. On top of this though, you can also double jump, wall jump, hover by spinning your sword, run along walls, swing across gaps, run at fast speeds, throw darts, and grind on rails. Each level will be littered with different obstacles that make use of all of Ninja's different abilities, and it keeps things engaging. It rarely becomes tedious or boring because you're never doing the same thing over and over. The levels are fairly linear as there's always a set path you have to take and can be anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes long. Now, in a game like Super Mario 3D World where the levels are also linear, the game focuses on level specific gimmicks to keep the game interesting. Your abilities in Mario are quite basic, but each level will throw something different at you to keep things fresh. This works due to the short length of the levels so you never get bored of a particular gimmick. In iNinja, levels are much longer, so instead you have a larger range of moves and different obstacles to get past, which is how the game remains interesting to play. This approach works because the controls work well, which is especially important because this is not an easy game. There isn't a focus on precise platforming, but it's not a game you can play on autopilot, as it is still easy to miss jumps and lose lives if you're not careful. The combat itself is simple, but it works for what it is. The square button is your basic sword swipe and circle lets you do a spinning attack. There's a few more moves than that, but I never found myself doing anything but tapping square. I usually would complain about button mashing, but I didn't have a problem with it here. The majority of enemies are weak, so only take a few hits to defeat, so you're never waiting on the same one for too long. You also fight groups of enemies, so the trick to winning is making sure you're attacking the right enemy at the right time, rather than choosing between different moves. Fights never last too long either, which stops the combat from being dull. You also have 4 ninja abilities you can use: a damage boost, health recovery, a giant shuriken, or a short burst of invincibility. These charge up naturally and you'll be able to use one about once per fight, which finishes the fight sooner and helps maintain the pacing of the levels. There are also times when you fight stronger enemies in a weird dimension where you're both flying. These fights are okay. I found that it could be a bit hard to judge which way you need to dodge to avoid attacks, but they're inoffensive for what they are. There is a big focus on variety here, so let's look at the other gameplay styles. The first one that is used multiple times is rolling on a ball. These sections are fine. The controls work much better than you would think considering that this is a game on the PS2 which doesn't have the best analog stick. I think ball rolling sections are rarely a good idea, and also are always going to be annoying as you never have full control. I didn't like the ball rolling in this game for this reason, even though the execution here isn't bad. The next style is a level where you have to use a turret to shoot at boats before they reach the shore. This is a boring level. A turret section in the game should be action packed, intense and quick. Instead this level is slow, repetitive and long. There's not many boats to shoot at, leading to a lot of downtime, and there just isn't that much going on screen. It's only one level, so it doesn't hurt the game too much, but it was boring to play. The boss fights of the game are alright. They're all fairly easy and none of them stood out to me. For example, the first boss fight has you take control of a large robot and have you fight another large robot. It's an okay fight, but it feels a bit flat. There's no real sense of scale, as the fight takes place in the middle of the sea where there's not that much around. Your moves are also quite limited, so there's no unique or cool moves that you can use. Like I said, the boss fights are okay, but they're just there. The game is split into separate hubs, which each has 3 to 4 levels in them. Whenever you beat a level, you receive a grade. To unlock a boss fight in each hub, you must collect enough grades to reach the correct rank. At the beginning of the game, having to collect grades is fine. All you have to do is beat all the levels and maybe complete a bonus challenge or two, and you will have enough grades to unlock the boss fights. However, for the later hubs, you have to go back and replay levels in order to get enough grades. Each level has 3 grades available, and you get the first one by simply getting to the end. The other 2 grades will be a challenge within that level, which can either be a time trial, defeating a certain number of enemies, or collecting 10 hidden red coins. In theory, these challenges sound fine, but due to how long some levels can be, they become tedious very quickly. The challenges don't change the levels in the slightest, and the tasks are very simple. What makes it worse is that they aren't easy. For the time trials, the time limit is strict, so if you make one mistake you have to restart. With some trials being over 5 minutes long, once you fail a few times, things become frustrating. There are no speedrunning tricks or shortcuts to be found in levels, so being timed doesn't actually change the gameplay at all. You're just playing the same level you've already played. It's a similar situation with the red coins and enemies. You have to search everywhere to make sure you don't miss any. If you miss a few enemies or one red coin, you fail and you have to spend the next 15 minutes replaying the same level trying to find what you missed. I have no problem with the game throwing difficult challenges at you, but making the player replay a level multiple times with arbitrary tasks is lazy. You don't need every single grade to get to the final boss, so you can skip challenges you don't like, but it's impossible to completely avoid them. If they spent a bit more time developing these additional grades, they could have easily been okay, but as they are, they're just annoying padding. iNinja is a fun game that gets the core gameplay right. You get a large range of moves which helps each level be entertaining and enjoyable. The combat knows what it is and doesn't overstay its welcome, and it is cool playing as a ninja. Outside of the normal levels however, all the alternative gameplay styles are just okay. The experience is also bogged down by having to collect the grades, as it forces you to replay levels without offering anything different. It's close to being a really great game, but unfortunately just misses the mark. It's still good though, and I did enjoy revisiting this style of game. My score is 7.0 out of 10. Playing as a ninja definitely has its charm to it, but the padding brings everything down.